Do you want to become a talk show host? Do you have a great idea? Passionate World Talk Radio is currently looking for podcast hosts for our Internet Talk Radio station. Please email us at pwrnetworkllc@gmail.com with your name, email address, cell phone number, and podcast topic. In return, you will receive a 3-minute intro on air to a live audience about your podcast. Remember, just email us your name, email address, and your podcast topic, and in return, you will receive a free 3-minute intro on the air. How cool is that? Welcome to Passionate World Talk Radio. Educate, enlighten, entertain.
Hi, everybody. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio Network, where our mantra is to educate, enlighten, and entertain. The views of the guests may not represent those of the host or the station. Folks, I have a tremendous guest today. I'm so excited. Yes, I get excited about every guest. Are you grieving? Because I know I am. There's a lot of people grieving out there now. There's a lot of loss. A lot of loss of loved ones, loss of homes. People have died recently with storms. There is continuous loss going on. And if you want to know how to love and live your way through grieving, you're going to want to listen to my guest, Emily Thiroux Threatt, who is an author and lecturer, and she wrote the book, Loving and Living Your Way Through Grief, a comprehensive guide to reclaiming and cultivating joy and carrying on in the face of loss. Welcome, Emily, to Chatting with Betsy. I hope I said your last name right.
Yeah, it's fine. People pronounce it lots of ways. It's Emily Thiroux Threatt.
Threatt. Oh, okay. Thiroux Threatt. Well, it's nice having you on. And I have to ask you, how did you come up with the concept of your book, and what would you like the readers to take away from your book?
Well, I have dealt with the loss of 2 husbands, and I learned a lot the first time, and from that decided I would never get married again, but I did. And that husband unfortunately died too. And in dealing with my loss the second time, I started writing a lot just for me. I am a writer. I've written college textbooks before, and I've taught writing at the university level for many, many years. And I thought writing would be a way that I can explore all my thoughts and figure out what's going on with me and what my next steps are. And in doing that, I found some things that helped me in particular, and I thought if they're helping me, they would help other people too. So I invited people to come to my home here on Maui to share about grief together and write together and see what we came up with. And it was very popular, very well received, and we were doing great. And then the pandemic came. So we haven't been meeting on ground since then, but I do things online now. But from all that happening, I saw that the kinds of things that we were talking about in the group were the kinds of things that could really help a broad spectrum of people. So I ended up writing the book, Loving and Living Your Way Through Grief, and it has 26 chapters, and at the end of each chapter there's a different practice that the readers can do to help them deal with their grief, to work their way through it. And it's been very well received. People are appreciating the concept of having something that they can do that can actually help them instead of just reading about something.
Yes, and great reviews on Amazon, by the way. Can you give us an example of some of the exercises that you have in your book? I'm curious since I'm grieving myself.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of different kinds of activities or practices that you can do in the book, and lots of them have to do with writing, but some of them don't. And one of the ones that doesn't was something that came to me after my first husband to die. I was at the New Year's Eve about a year after he died, and thinking, I'm getting no place here. I have to figure out what to do with myself, and I'm going to work and teaching and coming home and sitting by myself and not doing anything. So I decided that I needed to make some kind of intention for the new year that was going to help me. And what came to me was to accept invitations. And I thought, well, that's a crazy invitation. Nobody's inviting me anyplace. It doesn't do any good to want to accept invitations if you don't have any. But the feeling was so strong. I thought, okay, I'm going to try this and just see what happens. Well, as soon as I committed to accepting invitations, I started getting invited to the most interesting things that I never would have thought of approaching or trying to figure out on my own. They just came to me. The first one was the editorial board of the newspaper, the local newspaper, asked me if I would serve a 1-year term on the editorial board. And that was fascinating. I was so glad I said yes. And I'm not sure I would have even thought about saying yes before I'd made this commitment. But I learned a lot about my community. I learned a lot about our politicians. I learned a lot about what people were wanting to do to improve the community, and it was great. Then I was also asked to be on the bioethics committee at the county medical center to be the layperson on the committee. My husband had been a professional on the committee, because he was a bioethicist. And we always talked about what he did, and I found it fascinating. But they approached me and asked me to do that. And I thought, I'm not sure I'm qualified, but I don't know why not, because I'm being a representative as a layperson. So I did that. I also, one of my friends was going to South Africa, and she invited me to go with her and her sister. Again, I hadn't thought about going to South Africa, but boy, was that an experience. And I could go on and on and on. Once I decided that I was going to accept invitations, the invitations came. So the practices are different kinds of things that you may not have thought about before, but it offers you a different way of looking at things. I also have one of the writing practices that I suggest is to write down things you're grateful for every day. Now, I know that's kind of a trend right now that people say, you've got to have a gratitude list, and some people take it seriously, and a lot of people think it's not that big of a deal, but I'm here to tell you it's a big deal, because I didn't think I had anything to be grateful for, just like I didn't think I was getting any invitations. But once I committed to writing things that I was grateful for, I kept finding more and more things. I kept writing. I finally had to get a journal just for gratitude, and I wasn't repeating myself. I kept seeing how there were really wonderful things in my life, even though I thought here I was alone, I wasn't happy, I wasn't going out, I wasn't doing anything. But the more I started writing down the things that were right about my life and were beautiful and good in my life, the more I smiled and the happier I got. And I realized I do have a lot to be grateful for. And continuing still to this day, I write down things I'm grateful for every single day. And it always boosts me up. And I think it's a great way to use writing to deal with grief.
That is a wonderful idea. And I just want to say many, many hard hugs to you, Emily. I lost my husband last year. I can't even imagine getting remarried and then losing another husband. That is, two huge losses. And, for you to write a book and have gratitude, you're a role model. And
thank you.
I love that. I just think that's fantastic. I also agree with that, Emily. There's so much to be grateful for. And I'm grateful for many things in my life, and I think every day, what am I grateful for? I wake up, I'm more mindful now, and I have a new appreciation for life now. And I wake up and I say, I'm going to find something good about this day. There's something good is going to come my way today. And that's how I'm starting my day now. And it took me only 63 years to wake up and feel that way. But do you find that you have a new appreciation for life, like enjoying just like even doing the simple things? And do you have that in your book?
Yes, I do talk about that throughout my book because it's something that I really believe. I can tell you now that I'm happier than I ever have been in my life. And if you would have asked me that a few years ago, I would have said, I've never been particularly happy in my life. I've had good experiences, but I didn't focus on the happiness that I had in my life. And I found that the more that I worked on everything that I did having to do with love, the happier I got. And my husband, the philosopher, used to tell me that there are only two real emotions, love and fear. So I started looking at fear and writing down anything that I thought I was afraid of. And you'd be surprised at how many little things you're afraid of that you don't think about. But once I started dealing with that, I got to the point where I thought, I don't really have anything to be afraid about anymore. And if there's no fear, then all that's left is love. And with having love being what's guiding my life now, I can't help but be happy. And I'm so grateful that I discovered that lesson for me because it's really changed my world.
That's a beautiful concept. I had something similar, Emily. My husband I took care of for 10 years. He had early onset Alzheimer's. And, and through his journey, I found my voice. I found so many gifts that I didn't know that I had and strength that I didn't know that I had. And one of the blessings is before actually Matt died, I was starting my show, chatting with Betsy. It gave me something else to focus on while my husband was dying, but also afterwards gave me a purpose. And I think that people, need to find their purpose and to do it. And then when you help others, as you know, it makes you feel better about yourself.
Absolutely. I know that after Ron died, that was one of the things I was writing to myself about a lot. I've had many careers in my life, and I've loved every single one of them. I've done a wide variety of things, but I'm at the point now where I'm retired, and we'd moved to Maui 2 years before he died because he had lived here a long time before I met him, and that's where he wanted to go to spend the rest of his life. So we sold our home and moved here. But I had been here 2 years taking care of him, and then he was gone, and it's like, okay, now what do? I'm retired. I still teach occasionally for the university online, but I didn't really have a driving force in my life anymore. So I just kept asking myself, I'd write in my journal, what's my purpose now? What is it that I am doing or want to do that's going to feed me, is going to help other people by what I'm doing? And that actually led to the creation of the book and of the different programs that I do, including the new Grief and Happiness Alliance, which I'm in the process of forming. That's a weekly online group. It's like a membership in a group that you can come, and one of the things I see that people miss the most is having someone to talk about and be friends with, and they can be in this group and be friends and get writing prompts and get happiness techniques that they can practice, and it's quite wonderful. I'm in the process right now of experimenting with it with a pilot group, and it's going to be just terrific. So I'm looking forward to that being opened in full force.
That sounds exciting. Do you offer other courses where people can go online to you, or do you offer counseling to people?
I'm not a counselor, like a professional counselor with a degree. I've always taught writing, and I've got a master's degree in writing, so I have no problem with teaching writing. I also am a certified happy for no reason trainer. So I'm certified to do that too. And the other things I'm doing from a lay perspective of someone who's grieving just like everybody else in the group. And through those, I have one group that meets every every Saturday for an hour. And it's called Writing Together Through Grief on Zoom. And we will write something, then everybody shares their writing, and then we talk about it. And the things that I give them to write about are something that they can cover in a short period of time and then have something to talk about. And it's powerful. We've ended up many of those sessions with people smiling and laughing, and other times where we might have some tears, and they just really love it. And people come in and out of the group. They might be there consistently, or they might come once every couple of months. So whatever they need for that group, they can come. And it's free. It's just to introduce people to me and how I do things. And then this Grief and Happiness Alliance is going to be online also.
And how does someone get in touch with you, Emily, to join this writing group to help them write out their experience?
Okay. You can contact me through my website. My website is lovingandlivingyourwaythroughgrief.com, just like the name of my book. And my email is emily@lovingandlivingyourwaythroughgrief.com. And you can get me through either place there, and you can also get my book any place that books are sold. It's traditionally published, so it's not only on Amazon but at independent booksellers and Barnes & Noble and other places also.
That is so needed, Emily. As you are well aware, we need a book like yours today, and your meetings that you're having for people to write down whatever your topic is at that time. They say writing is very powerful, and I unfortunately am not a writer, but maybe if I started writing, it would bring more feelings to the surface for me. So,
you don't
have to start.
It would. People seem to think that they need to be a writer to be in a writing group, but you don't have to be a writer to be in this kind of a group, because you're writing basically for yourself, and whatever you write is okay. And you'd be surprised what comes out when you start thinking about something. Things that you haven't been dealing with, or things that you've kind of hidden away, will come out in your writing, and then you can deal with them. So nobody cares whether you've got the periods in the right place or if you spell the words correctly, because nobody's going to read it like that. They'll just hear you talk about your writing. Sometimes people choose to read their writing out loud, but more often they use the writing in my groups to trigger their conversations.
Oh, wow. I really like the concept of your group, Emily. That sounds very interesting to me, and I want to urge my audience to go on your website to check out all that you have to offer to help them through their loss of grieving. I was determined when my husband Matt died that I wasn't going to drown, in my sorrow. That I wanted, and I promised Matt that I would move on. I would continue on with my work, and I tell people, it takes time to heal, but as you're healing, to find, your purpose and to do what feeds your soul, that makes you happy. And, sometimes, Emily, I'm sure you've discovered, people put off something that they wanted to pursue when they were younger, and they couldn't because of responsibilities, and now they don't have those responsibilities, and now they could do it. Or a hobby that they always wanted to try. And
it's so good to just reach out and try things. one thing I did was I always appreciated drawing. You know, I would look at people's drawings and think, that is so cool. It's too bad I can't do that. And I always felt that I was just didn't have the hand-eye coordination or whatever it was that it took to draw. But after Ron died, I saw a class come up for drawing at the local art center, and I thought, I'm just going to go try that. It's not going to hurt anything, you know. Who cares what I draw in it? It's just the activity of going to the art center and being around creative people in a beautiful space. And I went, and I shocked myself. My first drawing turned out so well that I ended up taking a few other classes. They were individual classes from this same instructor, and it gave me the confidence that I needed to know that I can draw whatever I want to now, and I love it. I just absolutely love it. And I wouldn't have tried that before. I had so convinced myself that that was something that I couldn't do, that now it works like a beautiful meditation to me when I'm just concentrating on the drawing. It kind of clears everything else out of my mind, and I feel so relaxed and refreshed when I stop drawing. That I really encourage whatever it is. It doesn't have to be drawing. It can be anything that you have wanted to do. It could be singing. It could be hiking. It could be reading. Whatever it is that you really want to do, just try it and see what happens.
Yes, and that's what I encourage people. It makes me sad when people say, my life is over because my husband or my wife died, my mom or my dad, and that just is heartbreaking to me because there's so much that people can do. There's so much that people need services from other people. Be a volunteer. Well, now it's COVID, so some things are kind of difficult, but there are certain schools that are looking for people who are retired to do tutoring, to read, hospital volunteers. Of course, now it might be different with COVID, so check where you are. But there's just so much that could be, that people could be doing. And I'm just grateful for you, Emily, and you writing your book and the example, the role model that you are. And I'm glad I found my purpose, and I really encourage the audience to really seek their purpose because life is not over because someone you love has passed. Actually, a new life is beginning. Now, that might sound, horrible to say, but really it is a new life that you get accustomed to. And I still feel very blessed. And I just want to, thank you for coming on today, Emily. Is there anything else you'd like to say about your book or yourself or both?
Well, the statement that you made about people saying that their life is over because someone died, what I encourage people to do when I hear them say something like that is to get out a piece of paper and write down exactly what you think your loved one would tell you if you said that to them, that their life is over because my mom died or whatever. And then let your mom guide you in making a list of what your mom would love for you to do right now, or whoever it is that died. What would they want you to be doing now that they're not here beside you? And you might be surprised at what turns out. That can really guide you. So as far as my book, I really encourage people to read it. I also see it as a wonderful gift for someone who's grieving. Instead of sending flowers to a funeral, if you send this particular book, they can have it to use for a long time instead of for the beauty of the few days of the flowers.
Yes, that's a wonderful idea. Excellent idea. You would never think of that, sending a book to help somebody. People usually send, plants, flowers, or food, but yeah, send this book to help someone. We never know who we're going to help by giving a gift such as your book, Emily. I know I received a book from my son's friend, and it has little kind of like a devotional thing for every day. a thought. And that helped me tremendously. But you know what? It took me almost a year to open that book up.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it took me a long, long time to open that book up, and I did, and I'm glad I did, because it has helped me. It's inspired me. And I liked what you said about writing down what your mother or your father, your husband, your wife would say to you when you think that if you feel that your life is over. Go ahead, Emily.
Well, I was. Now I've lost my train of thought. Something about
again.
Oh, I know what it is. But it doesn't. The timing of when the person will use that book. If the book's there, when they're ready, they'll open the page. Like it took you a year. Some people will want it that day. They'll want to read it all. Other people will want to spread it out over a long period of time. And I'm not just talking about my book. I'm talking about any reading that would be helpful to someone when they're grieving. So when you give the gift of a book to someone to help them, then just let it go and let it serve them the way they need it when they need it.
Yes, because it may take them a year to open up that book. It may take them one day. You never know. I think your book is a great gift. Holidays around the corner. If you know someone who's grieving and you just want to gift it to them before holidays. Some people, I think, Emily, they're on the edge of giving someone a book about grieving because they think it might upset the person. But I could say from my own personal experience, it wouldn't have upset me. They will open it, like you said, when they're ready, because your book is helpful. It's there to help someone. And that's the idea that someone who's gifting it has to remember. The person who receives the gift we're not responsible for how someone receives the gift. We're just responsible for giving it. But they will definitely get a huge benefit from your book. Absolutely. And I thank you for writing your book, and I thank you for doing the work that you do to help others in their grief and their sorrow. That takes a special person. So you're a special person, Emily.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And thank you for coming on Chatting with Betsy. Folks, you need to get on Emily. Have you pronounced your last name, Emily? Thiroux Threatt?
Threatt.
Go ahead, say it.
Emily Thiroux
on her website. And Loving and Living Your Way Through Grief, also the book, which is on Amazon. And the information will be in the blog. So please read the blog that my station manager, Jeannie White, writes. That's what the blog is for further information about the guest. So you could contact them and find out, where you could purchase the book. It's a reminder. And I want to thank Jeannie White for producing the show and writing the blog. And I want to thank Lillian Caldwell, who's CEO of Passion World Talk Radio Network, for giving people a chance to be heard and to offer resources. This is what Chatting with Betsy is about. It's about helping people find resources and to help them. And it's my way of paying it forward. And if you missed any of this podcast, you can hear it all over again on your favorite podcast outlet. I am on Spreaker, Spotify, Google, and many other podcasts. And it's free to subscribe. So I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe, because you never know who my guest is going to be. And we never know who we are helping when you share. So please share this podcast to help someone else. And in a world where you could be anything, folks, please be kind, because the world needs it right now. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio Network. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Do you want to become a talk show host? Do you have a great idea? Passionate World Talk Radio is currently looking for podcast hosts for our Internet Talk radio station. Please email us at pwrnetworkllc@gmail.com with your name, email address, cell phone number, and podcast topic. In return, you will receive a 3-minute intro on air to a live audience about your podcast. Remember, just email us your name, email address, and your podcast topic, and in return, you will receive a free 3-minute intro on the air. How cool is that? Thank you for listening to Passionate World Talk Radio. You can listen to this program all over again by going over to https://passionateworldtalkradio.com. You can also hear it on Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon ALEXA, AMFM247.com every Tuesday evening between 8 and 9 p.m. YouTube, Facebook, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, and all the other podcast directories one can find on the Internet.